B-A-T. It's in the name.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. On today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about adoption, as November is National Adoption Month. And we're also going to talk about that event that's coming up this weekend, the St. Jude Run. And we'll get into that conversation right after these messages.
This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media and subscribe at benandtravis.com for the free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living.
I'm Travis Creasy. That's All-Pro Counselor Ben Hayes.
What's up?
And we are stuffed from Thanksgiving. I just wrapped up my fourth, and if you count the school Thanksgiving feast, that's going to be five Thanksgiving meals. I'm spoiled rotten and full as a tick, as they say down here in the South. For all you Northerners and foreigners that listen to this, that's probably a disgusting description.
I might have had 5. I'm trying to remember.
So 10 in between us,
6,
and then if you count the Iron Bowl, which we're probably going to eat,
and then we had a church gathering that was called a Friendsgiving. So all kinds of food that I didn't need to eat coming up on a really important weekend next week.
Yeah, and I've been trying to do, and I've been running the last couple of weeks, but we'll get to that in just a minute. But as we mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about adoption, as it is. November is National Adoption Month. I have 2 adopted kiddos, and they're knotheads, and they have behaved so well this weekend. I'm trying to think if they, there's a mistaken identity, like what happened to my kiddos. So
I know Christmas is around the corner.
And Christmas is around the corner. Maybe that's it. You're right. But we want to talk a little bit about adoption. Obviously, my family impacted immediately in our home, but we've got cousins, we've got family members who have adopted, and man, they're just kind of heroes, to be honest, and all that good stuff.
Well, I mean, I assume we have not adopted. My brother did. You guys have, like you mentioned, there's others in our family who have, but it's not an easy process. Number one, it's not easy as far as just preparing yourself for it. There's a lot of things that go into the adoption process, and you may want to speak to that, but also kind of wanted to ask you to speak to the, emotionally and mentally, what are some of the challenges, I guess, going into adoption when you're trying, I guess from the very beginning, I've heard you guys talk about the process of even letting that thought come into your mind, that it took a little time. So kind of walk us through what that's like for somebody.
Yeah, so I guess the first thing I would say is there's obviously a lot of different circumstances. There are people who are adopting right after birth. There's that process in which there are people who have to raise funds. It costs money. There are people who are adopting from outside of the country. We went through the foster care process, and the average is around 500,000. They're saying now, I think the latest data is there's 420,000 kids in the foster system in the United States of America, and that number can get up to 500,000, which is an insane amount. So there are different circumstances. We just I ran the Bella Snowball 5K to raise money to help two of my former students at Riverside afford to adopt. And so there's different circumstances. We went through the foster care system, and I would say one of the difficulties of getting in and deciding to become foster parents was the letting go, that you knew the end goal, and they tell you this right up front, is that you're trying to help them get back with their biological parents. And so that was always the holdup for me to even get involved, was we're going to fall in love with these kids, and they're going to go home, and they may not have anything to do with us. And I know that happens from time to time too, but there's also anything that the Lord calls you to. I think that there's this thing these days where, if the God calls you to it, then it's going to be really easy and it's like, where is that in Scripture?
I don't think
like,
I ever saw that. Yeah.
I'm not seeing that in the Bible, but emotionally, we really had to work because we were zealous. We went from 0 kids ever. All the ones we'd had, we'd take them on a youth trip and then drop them back at their parents' house after we spoil them or spoil your kids and leave them with you. And so we went from 0 to 2 literally overnight. And so there was a process of getting to know them, knowing their intricacies, but then you get to know them. And in our circumstance, it was basically told to us they're going home. Adoption is off the table. But there was this cycle where every night we were praying that these kids would go home. Some nights we prayed a little harder than others because it was difficult that they would go home. And then all of a sudden it switches and you're like, what am I going to do when they go home? And how am I going to handle that? And in one instance, you're happy that those people have gotten their life together, but you're also like, well, I'm kind of giving my life away. And so it was really have you ever seen the donkey with the carrot out in front of him? That's kind of what it was, and the carrot changed. The end goal changed. Like they kept pushing the goal line back, or the goal line changed. And so it was a roller coaster.
There's this really great book called Reframing Hope, and it was written by Travis and Whitney Creasy, if you haven't seen it. But there was a part in there where y'all were talking about even the process of agreeing to do foster care. Like you were struggling on one level, but you were seeing commercials and hearing about stuff, and then Whitney was struggling and thinking about it, and then she kept seeing commercials and hearing stuff, and it was like you guys both, almost without knowing that y'all were each thinking, if I remember that correctly, it was like y'all were both being drawn towards it, and then it sort of became a thing.
And I hold Nick Saban accountable because
it was in his commercial.
The Nick Saban commercial. So if anybody out there listening knows Nick Saban, tell him he at least got one. I don't know what his batting average on his commercials are, but he got one. He got us. I like the concept. And by the way, that book you mentioned, you can get for $15 right now on our store for, this is Giving Tuesday, I guess. But if you buy our book, 10% goes to Always Endure, which is a great organization, and Riverside Christian Academy. But
great Christmas gift.
I'm telling you, it goes right in the stocking. It fits right in there.
Right in there.
You can buy it, and we'll autograph it to you and send it to you. Nonetheless, I like the concept. N.T. Wright talks about broken signposts. And so you've got all these, I'm a broken signpost pointing people to God. I'm imperfect, but even my imperfection points to this God. And so there are a lot of people in our life who are broken signposts who aren't perfect, but were encouraging us and drawing us closer. But that was my hang up. It was, these kids are going to come in, we're going to fall in love with them, and they're going to go home. By the time we get to the point where we decide we want them to stay with us, not only are they going home, but we are supposed to be supportive of that going home.
For somebody who's thinking about foster care, because that's kind of the process you guys know, what are the first steps for that?
One of the cool things about that broken signpost is we did have people, we're not good friends with Nick Saban, we did have people in our life that we had a church family, we had a school family, we had blood family, that we asked to pray about it and to pray for it, and that God's will would be done, and kind of one of those things like, hey God, what do you want me to do? We just wanted to be open-handed to the Lord and say, what do you want me to do? Which is a scary question to ask because he always answers in some shape, form, or fashion. So that would be the first thing. Pray about it and let other people pray with you about it, people you trust, and get a community. There are obviously people out there who are tremendous adoptive parents who are not Christians or don't have a church family, or they don't have a community, and man, those I don't know how they do it, because we certainly had that. And then talk to people who've been through it. We had a lot of people. We mentioned your brother and his wife, and then we had a cousin that had I don't know how many kids come through their home. Right. I've been in foster care meetings or re-education, continuing learning, continuing education, where they said they had 1,000 kids who had come through their home, and at that point, they had 10 teenage boys in their home at that moment. And so those are the real MVPs. But and the big thing is asking the right questions. What are the pitfalls? What are the things that you made a mistake on? Or what are the things that you've learned in your training that you would have never thought of? And man, some of those trainings and videos, sometimes it's just a YouTube video that they send you, and you go, man, I didn't think about that aspect of that type of kid, raising them and the different obstacles. But
Yeah.
and then I would say develop your own questions, especially in the foster care. If they're calling you and they want to have a placement in your home, you need to have 5 to 10 questions that you're ready to ask them. Like, is there trauma? Is there, what's the background? What's the family situation? And because you need to protect your family as well from those things. And they may not can tell you all those things, but have your no list. Like there's so many. Strike 3, no, this placement can't come stay with us. And because if you're not able to be in a good space mentally or functioning, you're not going to be what you need to be for those kids. And
I would assume a starting point for that would be if you wanted to start getting into foster care. I mean, just a call to, like in Alabama, DHR. What do they call it in Tennessee?
DCS.
DCS. A call to them and saying, "Hey, we would like to start this process. Who do we get in contact with? What do we need to do? How do we get that ball rolling?" I would assume, because those people at DCS and DHR are picking up kids on almost a daily basis and getting them, dropping them off. I know one of the great things Whitney mentioned in our question and answer the other day was about the kind of temporary home that's starting in Fayetteville, which I thought was a really awesome idea.
Yeah, it's one of the difficulties is having a place to meet, and we may have mentioned this in earlier episodes. And but there's an Isaiah house. There's a verse that goes with it that I can't remember. Isaiah house that we're mimicking in Fayetteville, which is just a home. When somebody picks up and they don't have a place to put them, a lot of times these kids are sleeping on the floor in the office building overnight till they can get placed. And so there are these communities that are building homes. We're building one in Fayetteville where these kids can come and stay, and it's a home environment. They have a bed, they have clothes, they have toys, till they can get a placement, and also a place to meet. Church buildings, it can be difficult. Everybody
you guys had to drive like an hour, right?
Yes.
That was for your classes, I guess.
Classes were an hour, sometimes for visitations. You always want to go to the park,
for the visitation,
but it rains, it snows, it's cold. Nobody wants to be outside, and so places to meet. The adoption part was, like I said, it was difficult because some days you'd wake up and you'd be like, oh, it's getting close. It's going to get close. They're going to be ours. And then the news would be this or that. I mean, we at one point were told, these kids are going home, and there's nothing that we can do as parents, as foster parents, but as like the state of Tennessee couldn't do anything about it. And God was kind of like, oh, well, okay, now I'm going to show you who's in charge. Yeah. So I think that's the thing I would give anybody who's seeking adoption, whether it's through the foster care or whether it's someone from another country or trying to raise the financial aspect to adopt, that the encouragement is that God can do all things and make all things, and His timing's perfect. And I know these are all somewhat cliches, but it's true, and to trust it. And there were certainly times where we didn't trust it, and He was able to come through on it. But yeah, I'd say for me, I think as a guy, there's a level of difficulty kind of getting over the hump that these are my kids. Yeah. Whereas women, generally speaking, any kid that walks in my mom's house is her kid, including neighborhood kids who she bossed at Easter this year during the hiding the egg part. And I think for guys, sometimes we love them, but there's an aspect of being a dad that was difficult for me. It didn't take that long, but there was that bridge of, these are my kids, and kind of depending on the state to determine that was not fun. All right, thebenedicttravis.com/store. Is it backslash or forward slash? I never know.
Never know either. I don't know. If it goes from the top back, it's a backslash. If it goes from the top, then it's forward slash.
I've been saying it wrong all along.
I don't know. What is it? benandtravis.com.
Some crazy cracker.
Store. See, it doesn't show it. Wait. No, it's a backslash.
Yeah.
Goes front.
Sweet mama of mercy. Here we go. thebenandtravis.com/store. Go check it out. We got discounted items. Its discount code is Cyborg22.
Cyborg22? Oh, I was too loud with
15% off. And we've reduced the shipping on a lot of things.
That's
too,
like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and
Giving Tuesday.
all wrapped up, and you can get all sorts of good stuff.
The vault is open. I mean, lift up thine eyelids. Made in America. I mean, all that stuff.
What, stickers, mugs, T-shirts, hats,
hoodies, beanies, the whole tilt boogie. I mean, Maywood, Titus Camp, Maywood, Titus Camp.
Do it.
All that stuff.
The whole tilt boogie.
But the question of the day, man, is the St. Jude weekend is coming up, and you and I have both hit our goals.
We have.
So the question of the day is, are you ready?
No, absolutely not ready. It's look. I have medals from St. Jude past. Some of the Batify stuff, the little 5Ks that they did, getting prepared the year of COVID. So all of that stuff, and it's going to be bad. Like this year, my time is going to be bad. So I think it's bad anyway. I think I've pretty much hit like 2 hours and 36 minutes within 10 minutes of that time every time. I'm hoping for 4 hours and 20 minutes this time. I may be walking most of it. I've had, no excuses, but I've had a few little hiccups along the way, from blood pressure to some foot issues. So I'm like, if I just finish it, I'm going to feel pretty good.
Maybe you should run the 5K with me so we can keep an eye on each other.
I thought about it. And, of course, Destin has signed up. My daughter signed up to run this year. We have a huge team this year, actually.
Huge team. And I wanted to mention, the support you guys showed us for the Staying Alive Disco Dodgeball Tournament that came out of this noggin. And, of course, the Batify Freedom 5K, which seems like yesterday some ways and a long time ago. But it all helped us meet our goal. And we definitely want to put a shout-out for Will Myhan, who is how far we got to go?
I think he's got about $1,275 left to go. So he really needs your help.
We really want to hit that goal. Yeah. At least us three be done by race time, Friday night. I've got some great stuff, surprises built in for the weekend. Some of you've seen the video of what I've been chosen to wear. I'm going to put that video in the description and make you go watch it. We're not going to give it to you for free because stupid is as stupid does. But we do have a ginormous team with a goal of raising $30,000. So we wanted to share kind of our roster of who signed up for the team Ben and Travis. And we really kind of count all of everyone who's donated as a part of Team Ben and Travis. But these are the ones who've signed up to run and raise some money in the cause for Team Ben and Travis for Cypress.
I think the first year that we did this, it was me and Will Myhan, and then April and Ryan Logan went with us. And I think it was just the four of us, if I remember correctly. I'm sorry if I leave somebody out. And then the next year, I believe, was COVID. And so I think a few of us ran it virtually, and then around here. So then last year we went and we did, it was me and Travis and Will and Josh and Justin. Mm-hmm. And was that it?
That was it.
The team? That was the team. And I think the year of COVID, Michael Rosenblum might have joined us. And so we've had those teams. Well, this year, it was like we blew that out of the water. We started telling people, hey, we want you on our team. And, come run with us. So we've got Justin's back. He's back. Josh Thorne, even though he had a stomach bug or something last year and did better than any of us,
still
even with a stomach bug the night before, Josh has signed up to come back and be with us. Of course, Will is going to run the full marathon. He has. He's like us. Lot on run. He's like the rest of us. We're probably not prepared. And then we've got several new folks. They're not really new folks to us. We do have maybe a couple that we don't know very well. I don't know Ben, and I guess that's Jinsey Wright. I don't know them well, but welcome. We're glad that you guys
happy to have you
with us, and we're thankful that you're with us. We have Jason and Aaron Wyndham, and they're awesome, and we're glad that they're on with us. Their son Brock is going to run. Now, Brock will run circles around every one of us, and probably, he may even get up there and rank with somebody because Brock is a phenomenal runner.
There's the fundraisers, and then there's the serious people, and then there's like the MVPs who do both.
Yep.
And I'm not one of those people.
Well,
that category.
They're doing good. I know several of these still have some money to raise. Would love for you to donate to theirs too. So several of them. You've got Trey Reeves who's running with us, and Trey is awesome as well. Trey's more of a man than we are. Ashley and Ross Nelson, or Ross and Ashley Nelson, however you want to say that, they're going to be running with us as well. Matt Hupel is running with us, and Tanisha Elliott. So we got, it's crazy. All kinds of men and women and kids, and Destin, my daughter, Destin Hayes, I mentioned that earlier. She's going to be with us. So, it's a team.
It's a team, and I love it. And I may or may not have a special tracksuit for Friday night festivities to walk around. And I may or may not have a big gold chain to wear as we walk around the festivities. But it's going to be wild. It's going to be good. I'm keeping my end of the bargain. We hit 2,000 back at the dodgeball tournament, and so everyone who's donated to my cause got an option on the Wheel of Will. We spun it. I'm going to be honest with you. Out of all the things, I'm pretty happy with what we landed on. So that'll give you a heads up on what it landed on.
And I'll go ahead and tell you what I'm doing, because it's not anything crazy. Well, not too crazy. But I think back at the dodgeball tournament, if I raised a certain amount that weekend, I would do one thing. We had levels, and mine ended up being that I'm going to run in neon. So it's not anything crazy, but I'm going to find some neon and run in it. So
I'm holding out next year. Go ahead and write it down. Go ahead and budget, okay? We're making Bob Ross for Ben Hayes happen. Ben, the top tier, which he didn't meet at the dodgeball, was to dress as Bob Ross, and that needs to happen. I'm full on board of making that happen next year.
I think I could get a hold of some Bob Ross. I believe Karen Mann dressed like Bob Ross this past Halloween, so maybe next year. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Who knows? I might show up as neon Bob Ross.
Who knows? Who knows? He might feel a little froggy. And we'll definitely be posting pictures. I'm sure we'll video, and if things go well, we'll video and record a podcast from Memphis. And so we just appreciate you. We mentioned it in the last podcast. We just had a Thanksgiving prayer, and we thanked you. We just want to thank you again, because you guys make this happen. If you go... please share this episode, rate and review it. Man, that's huge. And the number one way a podcast gets talked about is
you guys.
Word of mouth. So let people know about it. Tell them you love us, and hopefully that's truthful. We're not telling you to lie, but hopefully if you love it, tell somebody, and they'll tune in. And for all of you that have helped us meet our goals, a big thank you. And certainly we could stand the prayers through the weekend, because we will all need them to finish.
And you can go on benandtravis.com and find a link to our team.
The drop-down menu, St. Jude, click it. It'll take you to our team, and you can choose which one of these to donate
That's our website.
That is
right?
our website,
yeah.
benandtravis.com.
So choose somebody because I think you can see. Can you see it on there?
Yes.
What they're at.
Yes.
And you can kind of see where their fundraising goal are. For those who signed up as heroes, just a little bit of a update on that, or details on that, just for your information. If they signed up to be a St. Jude hero, they've kind of guaranteed this money, and so it helps them to be able to raise it, and that kind of pushes them to raise it as well. But this is money that's going to go straight to St. Jude. We don't see it, none of these people see it. It's strictly for St. Jude and for these patients. So go on there and help them out to reach those goals. And I know not only they, but the families at St. Jude will appreciate it.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.